call me B Money. Getting money, honey, call me B Money. Not even funny, call me B Money. Living where it's sunny, B for short, don't call me Sir Buddy.
What's up, everyone? Thanks for watching the B Money Show. I'm your host, B Money, and today we're going to talk about how to invest so that you can save up for all the purchases that you want to make. So what we're going to first start with is the company that I always recommend using. Now, granted, there are some other good companies. Charles Schwab offers free trading as well as of recent, but that wasn't a thing back when I opened the Robinhood account. And so for that reason, I'm relatively loyal to Robinhood. And so I still have Robinhood, even though Charles Schwab does offer free trading as well. So now, without further ado, this is my Robinhood account. I've had it for about 2 years. When I first opened the account, I really only put like 50 bucks in there, and I was just like kind of messing around. I wanted to see like how everything kind of works, like how those how actually buying the stocks works, like how much they fluctuate, all that kind of good stuff. Since then, I've started becoming a lot more serious about it and making sure that I put my automated amount into that account every month. So this is, you don't really do anything too fancy. If you watched my last video on how to save for retirement, within the Robinhood account, you can literally buy those exact same ETFs. So I still do recommend, even in Robinhood, you're going to want to buy your VNQI, VGLT, VTI, and VOO. Now, with that said, if you have a little bit of risk tolerance and you possibly want to have some companies that grow maybe a little faster than the 4 ETFs that I did show you, you can invest in other companies as well. I tend to invest in companies that pay a dividend, that beat the market, and that I actually personally use. So in my case, I do invest in Apple, Chase, and Walmart, even though Walmart doesn't always beat the market. So I do invest in those companies as well. Chase and Apple tend to really beat the market, so I've been doing pretty well on those. In case you were wondering, Chase's symbol is JPM, Apple's symbol is AAPL. And if you are going to be checking your accounts on a semi-regular basis and you know, you're open to a little bit of extra risk, then at some points it might be advantageous to look into investing in individual companies. If you don't want to mess with any of that stuff and you just want to put the money in there and just kind of let it sit and grow, then I would recommend sticking to the 4 main ETFs that we did go over earlier. So the first thing that you need to know is like what you're looking at. So in my earlier video, I talked about buying the S&P 500. So the first way to make sure of how your money is going to do is check the 5 years. So if you pull up this account, the actual company itself, or the ETF, you can click on the 5-year mark, and you will see, now this company, the S&P 500, this ETF has gone up 55% in the past 5 years. VTI, the total stock market, pretty much matches that. So that tends to be like the most you're going to make pretty consistently with like relatively low risk. Now, and then I also mentioned to you that the companies that make the most tend to pay the least dividends. So there is a way of actually checking how much dividend that it pays you. So if you scroll down a little bit from the top, you will see right here on the bottom right, it's going to say dividend and yield, and it'll have a little number. So for the sake of this video, I'm just going to show you 2. I'm going to show you VOO, which pays at 1.89, but I'm also going to show you VNQI. The higher the number is in the dividend, the more it pays you for the dividend. Now, like I said before, VNQI tends to grow the slowest. This has only gone up 9.12% in the past 5 years. But if you scroll down, you can see the dividend yield on this one is 7.63. So it pays you a little bit more for owning the stock or the ETF as opposed to growing a lot. Now, I'm going to roll down a little bit here. This company here, or this ETF actually, I should say, paid me a $10.94 dividend a 94-cent dividend, and that was all just from owning, I think, like 5 shares of this ETF. So that pays you like pretty heavily, considering the ETF itself only costs about like 50 bucks. So if you are going to experiment with some individual companies, I'm going to go ahead and do Apple, because I feel like basically everyone has some Apple product or another. You can go to the 5-year mark, and this has actually grown 158% over the past 5 years. So you can scroll down. As you can see, this does pay a dividend, but a relatively small dividend. We're at 1.06. So that's Apple, and then I'll show you Chase just for the sake of it. Over the 5-year mark, Chase has grown at 123%. And now banks tend to pay a little bit higher dividends. So as you can see with Chase, is paying at a 2.6 dividend yield. So that's pretty good for a company that's growing that fast. But with that said, it's a little riskier investing in one company because, you know, God forbid they make a terrible CEO hire or whatever the case is, that company can suffer a little bit. When you're buying the S&P 500 or the entire stock market, there is so many companies that go into making that actual ETF that it's far less risky. Now with that said, it's typically like 5 companies or so that tend to like carry the whole ETF itself. So if you're looking in those 5 companies, you can kind of see like which ones are the pioneers of that of that ETF, and which one is causing all that actual growth to occur. So this account, you do pay taxes on. You pay the taxes when you sell off the stocks, and then you put the money in your investment accounts. But unless you're making like a ton of money off the stocks, it's probably not going to affect you realistically. Most people aren't really making enough money that that's going to be like a big deal. So this is usually a pretty safe way to go, unless, you know, you're making so much money that it actually does put you into a higher tax bracket. But if you're making that much money, you've got your tax people and all that working for you. You've got your accountant, so you would want to go to them for those types of questions, if this would be a good idea for you. But with that said, this is the account here that I'm using right now to save up for my Mustang, my next house when I buy it, all of that, all of my like consumer expenses. You can also see this keeps track. Now I haven't had this account for nearly as long as I've had the Roth IRA. So the Roth IRA has a lot higher percentage returns. This I'm only making about 12.51% returns. So significantly less than my Roth IRA. But with that said, that's still better than your money sitting in a savings account. So I recommend going with this any day of the week. But one thing that might be advantageous for you is if you have multiple items that you're saving for. If you want to have 2 different accounts, Webull is another great resource as well. I'm going to go ahead and put a link for that. You can receive 2 free stocks if you use my link for Webull, and you can get 1 free stock if you use my link for Robinhood. So that will be in there as well. But it's not a terrible idea to have, let's just say, your Robinhood account for your next house or your first house, and your Webull account for your next car or your first car. And that way you keep things separate, and you know, hey, I'm putting the money in my Robinhood, that's money that's going towards my house. Or, hey, I'm putting the money in my Webull, that's the account that's going to be paying for my car. So it'll help you separate things as opposed to just having it all in one account and not necessarily knowing what you're going to do with the money. Not that that's a terrible idea either. Really, it's better to just get started investing than to not. And Robinhood is super easy. I think you only have to deposit like 50 bucks to get started, and from there you can kind of get your foot in the door. Now, with that said, 50 bucks doesn't tend to buy you much on here in terms of your stocks, so you are going to have to consistently put in 50 bucks for a little while until you have enough money in that account to afford paying for your bigger ETFs and things like that nature. So, so just keep that all in mind. But yeah, if you already know that you're going to buy, like, let's just say in my case, like a Ford Mustang, and I had already shopped around just to see what the payments would have been on that car, it seemed like, as a rule of thumb, I was going to be, you know, if I wasn't putting that much money down, my payments were going to be somewhere between like $300 a month. So instead of taking that car payment and spending $300 a month to pay off your car, what you could do is maybe if depending on the term you're going to do, like say you're going to do a 72-month term, for the next 72 months, you can just throw $300 in your Robinhood account and then, of course, buy your car cash 72 months from now. And that, of course, is my strategy. And at that point, of course, you will be seeing my new car, which I've been saving up for over the course of a couple years. So the big takeaways: if you are going to invest in individual companies, make sure it's a company that you use, make sure it's a company that beats the market, and also pays you a dividend. If you check all three of those boxes, feel free to invest away, and you should be pretty happy with the results. Now, if you are wanting to keep everything nice and streamlined, easy to do, go ahead and stick with the 4 companies that I went over earlier: VNQI, VGLT, VOO, and VTI. Another disclaimer, this is not financial advice, this is strictly entertainment, so don't sue me. But with that said, I've had pretty good results investing in these companies for quite a few years now, so just stick to the game. And just remember, if your stock prices go down for a couple days, that's the time to buy, not the time to sell. I know it sounds like super obvious that you want to like buy low and sell high, but like it's a little easier said than done. So get in the process of just like saving on that consistent basis, putting that money in that account. And if you're at the point where you're ready to make your purchase, but your stuff is down, that might like encourage you to wait a week or sleep on it, maybe wait a month. But within no time, you should realize that you're, especially if you're buying good, high quality ETFs or companies, that even if it is temporarily down for a short period of time, it will go back up. So if you want to just hold off on buying that car or whatever it is for, you know, another week or month, in some cases that might be a really good decision to go with. And so you can kind of use that to make sure that you're selling at the right times. And you know, if what you're buying is you're ready to buy it at a time when everything is super low, might sleep on it. And who knows, maybe after you sleep on it, you might decide that you didn't actually want that thing so bad. And you can take another couple months or so to get like, you know, fully ready where everything is back up again, and then you can buy at that time. So appreciate everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Call me B Money, getting money, honey. Call me B Money, not even funny. Call me B Money, living where it's sunny. B for short, don't call me Sir Buddy.